All right, everyone. You're welcome. Why are you welcome? Because we start the show with legend Jeremy Ratchford. He's Clint Eastwood's favorite actor, notoriously from things like Unforgiven, Jersey Boys, but also recently did a tour of duty on FBI recently as a villain, and he was very, very convincing. And he is, as he would describe, the sound of Nick Nolte's mugshot in a room. But today, not only are we back with this epic legend, who we love, one of our all-time favorites, we're here to bring you the almanac of film knowledge in the form of a film called The Cassandra Crossing from, I think, 1976 or 77, early in the 70s, buddy. Jeremy Ratchford, how are
76.
you?
I'm doing great, brother. It was 1976.
The premise of the film, it's a stacked lineup in a stacked situation. Two bioterrorists or terrorists try to blow up like a bio lab. One gets infected, makes a getaway from the Marines. Early morning shootout in what I thought was actually a model. I thought it was in a miniature building, but it was, I think it was a real building now that I rewatched it. But
I had the exact same feel when the camera. I was like,
yeah,
"Oh, look at this drone shot!" Till you go, they didn't have drones. They have to be in a helicopter. Uh,
now,
but it was fairly smooth, and that's when I started going, "This looks fake now." But they had birds
yeah,
flying.
yeah.
Oh,
And they had cars. I
yeah,
always look for sometimes they can fake a car here and there in a miniature, but I was looking. And I do think it was a beautiful shot. Cosmatos directed this film, who saved the Tombstone production, and he did a great job
yeah,
on that particular shot, calling for it and getting it in the back because it is one of the smoothest opening shots to directed by that I've ever seen. So these guys try to blow this building up. It goes off the rails, literally, as the whole movie does, and then the guy boards a train. And like a Perot movie, all the suspects start getting on the train for
yeah,
your ride into hell. Now,
yeah.
you know what? Before I get your take on some of this firepower in front of us, I want to actually just say I know this is probably an average movie at best, but when I was a kid, 5, 6 years old, we had the Z channel. And anyone who grew up in the San Fernando Valley knows what I'm talking about. Z channel was a cable channel unique only to the San Fernando Valley, but it was the programming specialized in like director's cuts before it was the term director's cuts and things like that, unique films. I put this on by accident, and the moment the TV comes to life is that scene where they start bolting the train up to seal it, and all those guys with machine guns and sirens. And I was like, what is this?
1,000 passengers sealed on a train. Why? Armed guards in spacesuits. Why? It is forbidden to leave the train alive. Why? 1,000 human beings on a journey to nowhere with one-way tickets to hell.
We've got no choice.
Yeah, we're going to die. The children. The girl over there. What's her
Jennifer,
name?
stop it.
Katerina.
Stop it.
But how can I?
Stop it.
Send a plane to warn them. Put flares on the track. Give them a signal.
Any passengers attempting to escape from that train must be stopped.
1,000 lives are at stake here, including you and your men.
Come in, Dr. Shenry. Hello! Hello!
Cassandra. Crossing.
Cassandra Crossing.
I want this train stopped, now!
My orders come from Colonel Mackenzie.
Okay. Then I'll start with you.
Go ahead.
Huh?
Go ahead. Go on, Rob.
Sophia Loren, Richard Harris, Martin Sheen, O.J. Simpson, Lionel Stander, Ingrid Thulin, Lee Strasberg, Burt Lancaster as Mackenzie. Ava Gardner as Nicole. A powerful cast of international stars in the most spectacular suspense film of the year. The Cassandra Crossing.
I know you must see me as some sort of a monster.
You had every option wired.
But it's my job and I do it well.
You think I'd purposely murder 1,000 people?
Wonder, and I want to ask you your take on this, Jeremy. If I had seen this from the beginning with the Sophia Loren, Richard Harris love story and all, would I have been able to hang with it as a kid? But because I opened it up right at this scene where like these stormtroopers welding this train shut, and they're bringing in like coffins that they bolt the bodies into. And I was like, holy shit, I got to watch to the end of this movie. And what do you mean they're going towards the Cassandra Crossing is a bridge that may or may not be entirely stable, to quote Han Solo. Anyway, so what is your take on this movie? This is the first time you've seen it, I think, when we were talking back and forth this week, right?
Yeah, I have no recollection of ever seeing it before. And I would have been, 11 years old when it came out?
Both of us, very young.
But I love how fast it starts.
Does start quick.
Yeah. They get in there, they try and blow it up, they get shot, and then in the shoot. I love the scene though, because they run into the danger room.
Right.
The guy shoots into the danger room, and the rats and all. You kind of go, oh, yeah, as a somewhat educated person, you got to go, oh, they're doing some the air is bad. Mm-hmm. The funny thing is the two security guys, and by the way, first watch of this movie, I went, wow, this moves, there's characters. It was what I call an adult movie that you sit there and you go, oh, good, we're getting we're getting snippets of life on so many different levels, so many characters. Lee Strasberg, love you. But the two security guys, when he throws the thing through the window to get out,
right,
and the security guy's going to go after him, the other guy holds him back like this. So, in theory, as long as you don't go into the room, that the glass has been broken. But if you don't go into the room, you won't get infected. But if you go in past that line, you stand a chance to get infected. Like that's
right. It's the Randall Kleiser boy in the bubble line of demarcation that filmmakers use to imply danger. You know, don't go in there. It's I mean, to be honest with you, like you don't have a movie if these guys would have done the job they're supposed to, which is there better be a body on the lawn of the WHO. There is no way you let an infected guy off the ground, so you better gun that guy down mercilessly.
Well, and they stop. They had the drop on them. They had their backs to them when the elevator picked up, and they're in military uniforms with their guns on, and they couldn't get them.
Yeah. Again, you don't have a movie if the guy doesn't get out, but it doesn't it's not the most effective representation of our Marines. Again,
as I say, on first viewing, it was like, you just go with those things.
Yeah.
Because my other question was when they board up the train, and again, as you said, as a kid and all that stuff, all like the outfits that they they're all covered. And Sophia Loren does a great job when they pass. Can't remember what the name of this town was.
Bissell,
yeah, because the little musician hippies had sex before getting to Bissell.
They're great.
Maybe could have done it when we got into the train station. Yeah. But when she sees all like the police presence, kind of goes, they're not stopping and they're not letting anybody. I got a hunch, and that was the great moments of kind of like, this is serious shit.
I fully.
What we were just talking about, when you get an alert on your phone saying time to evacuate, it's serious shit.
No, I fully agree with you. I thought that was very effective. I mean, Cosmatos could direct a movie. He's not gonna give you a lot of deep character substance or worldly values to think about and pontificate on, but he will set you up and start knocking them down,
Well,
as
and
we've
he also
seen.
went on to do Rambo 2 and Cobra.
Yeah. Let's be honest. Well, I don't know about Cobra. I can't really speak to that one too much. It wasn't one of my favorites, but I thought Rambo 2 was a very effective sequel when I was a kid. I loved it.
I loved Cobra.
Well, and that's the beauty of this discussion.
Yeah.
We can talk about things. We should review that one. But
yeah, we should. Cobra, just to kind of go in. The car alone, because I'm a car guy. I've never seen a car like that. I love that fucking car.
Jeremy's what the executives at the studio would refer to in movie audience terms as a cheap date, because if it's just the car that gets you through the door to pay a ticket, then we're in business. The thing I loved about Cobra, I will give him credit, is when there's the siege of the supermarket and he stops, he gets on the phone, like the interior landline is like, "I'm coming for you," or whatever it is. It's a very Rambo-esque line. He's like, "I'm coming," but then he like stops to pop open a beer. Like, that was brilliant. That was good.
But he goes on, because I worked at a grocery store. So he goes on that.
Yeah.
You're scum.
Come on.
Yeah.
Move. Get down there, man. Shut up and get away from her. Shut up. Hey, I'll kill you, man. I'll kill them all. It's the way of the new world. It's the way of those TV cameras. Hey, man, I got a bomb here. I'll kill them all. You bring in the TV and I'll kill them all. You understand? It's the way of the new world. So what are you waiting for? Let's go! Come on over here, I'll kill him, you got that? They're all trash anyway, they all deserve it. You're gonna die right now, you got that? Kill her! I'm gonna bump her, you got it? I'm gonna kill her right now, get down.
Hey, dirtbag. You're a lousy shot. I don't like lousy shots. You wasted a kid. For nothing. Now I think it's time to waste you.
Come on, man. I got a bomb here. I'll kill her. I'll blow this whole place up.
Go ahead. I don't shot her. Hey, just relax, amigo. You want to talk? We'll talk. I'm a sucker for good conversation.
I don't want to talk to you. Now you bring in the television cameras in here now. Come on, bring it in.
Can't do that.
Why?
I don't deal with psychos. I put them away.
I ain't no psycho, man. I'm a hero. You're looking at a fucking hunter. I'm a hero of the new world.
You're a disease, and I'm the cure.
Die!
Drop it!
It was just, that's what I
But
went. This is, it was a comic book brought to life, the most ridiculous.
no,
And
that was a
it'll
great
make
moment for that
the
film. I'm sorry. It's not a film I love, but that was a great moment. I got to tell you too, I think about that when you do it, when you do your impression of it, like how would different actors, how would Clint Eastwood do that? How would Schwarzenegger do? Schwarzenegger would be like, "It's time to check you out. You're going to be shoved in a bag, but not the brown paper bag. We're going to shove you in a body bag now." Or Werner Herzog, remember Werner Herzog?
Yeah.
"This is where you enter the seventh level of hell. It is a soul-crushing experience you're about to endure as I work my way down the frozen foods aisle to cap your ass."
Well,
So
now
there's so many.
we got to do our favor now. We got to do walking. You scum. I don't like you. I'm coming for you
Yeah.
now.
We wanted Walken in a film when we were at Warner Brothers to play an anger management counselor. I'm surprised no one's used him as like a hostage negotiator. Just because he doesn't even really talk like that. That's what we were laughing at my wife's birthday with you and Bill Daly from Warner Brothers. We're like he like switches on Walken mode.
Well,
But
and I saw an interview with him, and he says that when he's learning his lines,
yeah,
sometimes he does them as a U-boat commander. Sometimes he does them in like crazy accents, and I actually implemented a bit of that. I went, let's try this, and it's amazing the inflections, and also you find different things in words and in passages that if you're doing it, you won't come out. It's like
yeah.
it's hysterical.
So unless you're playing a U-boat commander, maybe not try it as a U-boat commander is my advice, but I can get the different techniques and look, whatever. It works for him. I mean, I've heard different stories about his approach and I love watching him. It's somewhat comical to me, but I love watching. We just did the whole King of New York and we could not get enough of that breakdown. But getting back to this epic piece of road work, the Cassandra Crossing. So Cosmatos really handles this efficiently, I think. I mean, maybe it drags a little bit between Loren and Richard Harris, who've supposedly been divorced 2 or 3 times already by the time the movie started. But I think that's because Loren was married to Ponte, who produced this. So he's going to showcase Loren.
Yeah.
And Harris, who I understand that Peter O'Toole was up for this, but Harris got the part. And Harris is very Richard Harris in this. He's the same as Juggernaut, Wild Geese. This is kind of what Harris did, Robin and Marion. He showed up and he harassed you. So he does his part, black turtleneck, trademark, Richard Harris, black turtleneck. He happens to be a.
I love when she says that he's gotten fat.
Yeah, he weighs all of 90 pounds in the movie, but whatever, by European standards, I guess.
And,
the thing
and he's shaving in the train.
Yeah.
Shaving, and there's not one. That was one on the second viewing, because I love the train movies. I thought we should do Vine Ryan's Express because it was that same, the tunnels.
Yeah. Or The Train. The Train is the ultimate train movie, I think.
But there's no, like when you're walking on it's like, whoa, there was not one person ever kind of experienced the oops.
There's a couple of shaving scenes in this film. Lancaster, who's your villain, also has one, but he's kind of he's in front of like one of those Super 70s VHS playback monitors shaving for whatever reason. Like he's got to worry about his appearance when he's about to send 1,000 people to their death, but he does a little actors and shaving is always one of those things that I feel they take a little too lightly when they're trying to actually execute a scene. But don't do it. Don't do it if you're not really going to act like you're doing it, is my thing. But they have their dialogue, those two, and they do their thing. But other than that, I think the movie travels pretty well because what happens is, this begs a question too. On these movies, there's a lot of convenience where the train happens to have everyone you may need from hero to villain. O.J. Simpson is an Interpol agent, of course.
You know what? But they did a great cover of that because when I first watched it, I went, he's bad.
Yeah.
The little girl sees a tattoo. Obviously, he's not a priest. It's like this guy is a villain, and then
you think so?
Oh no! Which I thought they did a really good job of making. He was bad when he wasn't.
But in the script writing, they give you everything you're possibly going to need for every character, potential connection with the audience dynamic. And I've always been like an advocate for strategic insertion, like with Die Hard 2, for example. John McClane doesn't have to be in the airport in a very coincidental terrorist attack for the second time. He could be teaching Nakatomi anti-terrorist lessons at the FBI Academy and be flown in. And the same thing with this. There's a train going. The doctor happens to be on it. I don't know how many like world-renowned doctors travel by train, but this one does.
Well,
but I also, what's that? Did they cover that? He said he hates flying. There you go. So they answer that question. But I'm also a big advocate when you're doing your pre-production on the script. Like, get him in there. He can be flown in. He can be flown, and that's a sequence in itself. You know, they did that in Hunt for Red October. Like, get the guy in there. He's not casually on the train already. But anyway, Chamberlain's in there. He's sort of your sane guy. I think he's fairly effective in this. What about you?
I thought Harris was very competent, but I mean it was
that's how I define him.
A to B to C. There was nothing like he didn't stand out. You wouldn't go, oh my God, his performance changed something for me.
So between Juggernaut, Cassandra Crossing, and Orca, all around the same time, Harris seemed to be like your go-to B action flick hero. Well, these were A pictures budget wise, but they've kind of been demoted, I think, over time. But he was kind of your go-to guy for a lot of this. Now that I think about it.
Well, and another guy we're going to talk about later is Nolte around the same time. Nolte was a Vietnam vet. He was a treasure hunter.
Mm-hmm.
He was, I think, in his early 30s, I'd have to pull it up, but he was he could be everything from a doctor to a favorite.
And we'd seen him play racist cops, teachers, everything. We're going to get to Nolte in a second because that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
But we got a surprise for you if you're still with us at that time. But I felt like Harris did his part. I thought Loren did her part. Ava Gardner's in this, who, by the way, once married to Frank Sinatra, not seen as the easiest actress to work with, and she does her bit. She's clearly in it for what name power she represents because her character, in my opinion, is insignificant. So here's what happens. They decide to seal up the train. They take it that is also, I agree with you, a very effective moment when they pull through the station and the cops have this thing in almost like Omen-esque fashion, have the crowd back and have it blocked off. Like I just expected to hear the chant from the Omen when they slid through the station. You know, it's very effective. Cosmatos delivered that moment, and Sophia Loren sees it, and she goes, "We're not stopping." And then the word gets out they're planning to actually take this train to a quarantine camp, which sends Lee Strasberg, the World War II Holocaust survivor. He goes full World War II flashback and goes nuts. But that's where I came into the movie the first time, is when they seal the engine, as I had said. And I was like, dude, this is riveting. And they decide to take the train. But they have a couple of opportunities to take it earlier, and they kind of blow it. Martin Sheen gets them going early. Like he does the full Apocalypse Now, and decides to start he checks the bolt action on. He gets a gun. He gets the drop on him, but they talk him off the ledge, and they decide to, don't they? He looks like he's going to shoot it out, but they talk him off. They talk him down.
He's in France.
Yeah, because he's a drug dealer.
And then that's one of the, on second viewing, because the thing I hated the most was when he gets up on top of the train.
Yeah, rear projection, terrible.
Special effects were horrible.
Terrible. They should have cut it. They shouldn't have even tried it.
And the fact that he gets up there and panics, but then 2 minutes later is okay to go on the outside of the train and shimmy along, to which some of that footage, again, that's a train going however fast it was going. That was a stuntman on the outside of that fucking train. I don't know.
And that dude earned his money.
And how were they following it?
Yeah. Pretty
was
good,
it an airplane or was it a road above? Like that, again, for the 1976,
yeah,
they didn't have camera cars. They didn't have all the special gadgets that would have made that easy.
That may have been the best sequence in the film for me, is when he's trying to go, he's doing the Alpine Trooper route down the side of the train. And I'm with you too. Like he gets up on the rooftop. It appears clear, but he decides not to go.
Yeah.
And that seemed to be the safer bet for me. Like if you were in that situation, I'm taking the roof. What about you?
I'm taking the roof.
I don't think for a second I can climb like a
Oh, and that's
fucking gymnast down the side of a train while it's moving.
When Richard Harris looks out, he's got like 6 cars to go.
Yeah.
And this is the other thing that I always think is funny because they need it. But had they just put that guy on the outside of the train and said, go for it.
Yeah.
But instead, they kind of use the same, oh, his foot slips. Oh, his foot slips. It's like, no, just let the guy do it.
Right.
Because we're going to be going, the foot slip, because they did it, I think, almost 3 or 4 times. You're like, no, it would be better if he got hit in the head with a branch.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's what I got. Or coming up to that was the other one, the helicopter with the dog, and they don't see that tunnel come, that mountain.
Hurry, for God's sake! Reel in!
So that famous movie thing they do in The Thing too, which is a movie I absolutely love, maybe one of my all-time favorites, but a helicopter can hover. You don't really need to outmaneuver a building. You can break it. So it's kind of funny that for tension, it's like he's got to veer off like G.I. Joe, like Wild Bill, and just kind of like cut to the skyline.
Just on that level too, the funny one, bring the dog in. There's a shot of that red and white helicopter with the co-pilot with the dog in his lap. He's petting the dog in the Alps or where like it's snow-capped mountains, and they follow that helicopter for 10 seconds. I'm like, wow, that's a day of production with the dog up in the air. That's the other thing. When I look at those things too, the epic of it, like the trains, like the shots of the trains and the above, like there was a lot there. Like now they try and all CGI it down on a stage in Culver City instead of that real countryside.
Right, and I do think there's something for the production value that like Switzerland or France, wherever they shot this thing, it's all beautiful. I think there is something to it. You got to get away from. We are talking about how bad the rear projection is in the movie. They should have cut it, and so they did go for the real elements. I remember talking to producer Jeff Astroff, who who's told me they always get the note for putting a dog in their TV pilots. He did Friends and Trial and Error, and he said they always put a dog in it. So I think either Ponte or Cosamatos, probably Ponte, said, you got to put the little puppy in the scene and let's rescue a puppy. Let's put that in there for the audience. I feel like that's what that was, but it works. I mean, it works for what they're trying to do. I mean, once they tried to take this train, this thing goes into another gear. And it's interesting who decides to take it with them, because all right, so Richard Harris's wife at the time is an actress in this. And you can totally tell she was part of either the Carlo Ponte pitch to get Harris in after O'Toole had passed, or they just knew to make Harris happy because she's got a song in the movie that is like right out of like the Joan Baez playbook. And so she's got not only a song, but she acts, and she's part of like this like mountaineering ski group that decide they're gonna become a strike team and take the train too. So she's got a moment. These ski kids they weren't kids, but they're the younger cast. They decide they're going to take part in. Martin Sheen, the drug runner, O.J. Simpson, the Interpol agent out to catch Martin Sheen. They decide they're going to take it. But what's also interesting is, I don't know if you noticed, there was a carload of German soldiers on this thing.
Yeah.
And you would think, if we're going to take a train, I'm going to get those guys. I'm getting those dudes.
Just triggered something that was on the second viewing. It's at the 40-minute mark. and Harris has got to walk through. I can't remember exactly what the moment was.
Yeah.
But as he walks down the train, the rail car, he runs his hand down the back, the head of a redheaded woman sitting with her back to the camera. And I saw it on second view. I was like, what the fuck was that?
Little sexual harassment on inspection.
A guy of value, like, all this, as he's going, I was like,
Harris can do angry well, or could do angry well. He's passed away. And he's got a son that looks just like him, by the way. It was my recommendation that his son take over his role in Harry Potter, because I'm like, dude, it's almost a seamless transition. But of course, they went for the bigger name when he died. But Harris does not do Terrified well. And he is, at one point, confesses to be terrified and to Sophia Loren, and it's just not very convincing. He's like, about 60% of us should die. And she's like, well, how do we get in the other 400? He's like, there's 1,000 people on the train. How do we get in the other 400? And she asks him, he's like, I'm terrified. But he was like ready to have another. He drinks all through the picture too. And knowing him, it probably wasn't provided by the prop man, or it was provided by the prop man, but it was the real juice, I'm guessing, with Harris on set, because he was notorious for having a good time while he worked, if you want to put it that way. But he just doesn't do Terrified very convincing. But once they take this train and they light it up, the movie gets going. And it's got some moments. It's got some moments between these guys.
Going back to Ava Gardner,
yes.
Again, I experienced her for the first time when I was a kid in Earthquake, which we've done.
Right.
I just knew that Ava Gardner was this name. I had no picture on her. And she was like what they consider the bombshells, I guess, back then.
Yeah.
And so it's Ava Gardner. Then when I realized she was in her 50s, I guess, when she did Earthquake, and she's miserable. Like as an actress, like it was like you chose to be this awful person, and now she's in the next movie, and she's like completely like, oh, fuck everyone. And then I did a little research on her, and I guess she's almost like a female Burton. It was just drinking, smoking, and fighting. Like
we have heard the historic rumblings about her presence. She kept getting cast though, and what's interesting is it's what I would define as favored casting, because she's not cast to do anything significant. I don't know how much. Did you see 7 Days in May? Because Ava Gardner was like the fourth person or fifth person on the call sheet, or did you see Earthquake because she was in it, or did you see this because so it's not like I feel like Lou Wasserman and her agent were friends, so she needed to work, so she kept showing up on sets.
Very Sunset Boulevard.
That's kind of how it feels with her, because she never really does. Earthquake's a great example. She just kind of shows up. She did a lot of films with Heston and Lancaster, so maybe they were all buddies. But when she shows up and she gets angry, and then she I
went back. She
disappears.
She did a movie with Burton. It's classic.
Which one is it?
He's a priest that takes a busload of middle-aged women down to Mexico, and then they end up. Is
that the Medusa Effect?
No, they end up at.
Oh wait, is that Night of the Iguana?
Yes. Because that was the one. Again, as I kind of went into the deep dive, I went, Night of the Iguana. That in the back of my head, it's like that seems to be a movie. Like, that's. I wouldn't say like Apocalypse Now, but Night of the Iguana I have heard. It's a noir, whatever. So I watched it, and it was like, I don't know. It was like, was this taboo back then? Like, it's I guess
Hollywood was still making its transition. I think when that movie was made. But the old guard was still acting, and the old guard was plugged into a lot of these things, I think, through relationships, because it's interesting when like Spielberg and Lucas started to helm up, they got away from a lot of those veterans, and they started to redefine the 70s moving forward, what the tempo was going to be. But Burton, he had some moments later on in life. He also had some moments where it looked like he was phoning it in. I mean, I loved him as Captain Faulkner in The Wild Geese. I thought that was him at his best. People will say Taming of the Shrew or whatever. I thought he was best basically playing himself as a drunk mercenary in Wild Geese.
Don't you what my son said, right? We watched Where Eagles Dare.
Yeah.
Came up
People love that movie, though. That's not one of mine, but
I remembered as a kid too because of the white parachute.
Yeah. Yeah.
Into the snow and going, oh, and then the cable car.
Right.
But when I brought it up to my son, and I think we watched it when he was under, like between 10 and 11 years old, and I brought up Bert and he goes, oh, you mean the horny old guy? And it's because when they go into the town and they meet with the barmaid to get the recon and all that stuff.
That's right.
20 years his junior, but he's acting like he's 20 and they're making out. He's making out. They wanted to make him like be so sexy. And then there's a great story from that one. I don't know if we've done this one, but Burton is working with Eastwood for the first time, and it's a big table scene. And Clint keeps giving away he goes, I don't need to say that. I don't need to say that. He keeps giving away his dialogue. And Burton's like, I'll take it. Fuck yeah, blah, 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 blah. What the fuck is this American kid doing? And Clint takes one line. It's the last line where it's all said and done. And he goes, yeah. And Burton went, oh my God, he stole the scene with one fucking line. One fucking line. I was like, oh my God.
Clint knew presence over content, the argument, it's not what you say, it's what you do, which is amazing how many actors have never really been able to grasp that when they're working. But Eagles Dare is one of those great movies in a sense that it's big in scope. I mean, it was kind of got the green light because of the success of Guns of Navarone, and Burton wanted to do something like that. But Guns of Navarone, that was one of those rarities where it just clicked on the script and the cast. They were all great, and they were still somewhat believable in those roles. I mean, those guys would play the generals age-wise in reality, but Where Eagles Dare is a lot of fun. But Eastwood is one of those guys, too, that he knows exactly what he's doing in terms of staging, as he's demonstrated. You're his favorite actor. Jeremy Ratchford's Eastwood's favorite actor.
The other one, Force 10 from Navarone, was arguably a good sequel.
I think so too. I mean, first of all, I liked Robert Shaw and Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
But also, it's a decent movie. It's got a decent mission. It's got a great cast. Richard Keel's in it. Barbara Bach. They all show up. Edward Fox, and it's a fun movie for what it is. I think personally. I don't know.
At the end of that one too, he's like da 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 da. Because we're on the other side. It's like, we've got to leg it because we're on the other side with a bunch of angry Nazis coming up the hill.
Right. Carl Weathers is in that too, who we just lost. Yeah. But getting back to the Cassandra crossing, my one regret is the miniatures and the effects. They couldn't really, one thing they know, but they never seem to practice is you can't really work water or fire into miniatures, but they always seem to do it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, are you telling me that throwing this little train model into this, that's the best way to convey the ending of the movie, which I understand was really cut down for television because of the savagery of it. But this thing, okay, so they spoiler, if you haven't seen a movie that's now 50 years old, they get this thing to the Cassandra crossing. Lee Strasberg flips out because he's having full-on Holocaust flashbacks, which is good. He's an effective character in this. He reminds everyone
and his character introduction is so gorgeous. He teaches the hippies how to get the change on it, and you got to go, and then he takes the watch. Like, he's just a gorgeous pickpocket. And then his buddy, who we've seen 1,000 times. I got to pull him up.
Heart to Heart. Stander, right? Lionel Stander. Yeah.
Oh my God. It's like one of those
he's good too.
I've seen his face 1,000 times, and he's always playing just that, like, I'm just a good guy. And I love him. I love him to bits.
When they got together, it was murder. Yeah, Heart to Heart. Yeah. Strasburg is effective. And of course, it's funny. He tries to sneak out of the train and he gets blasted, but he takes the hit pretty well and they throw him back on board. But I love when he comes over the speakers. Lancaster has like the announcement of doom. We're going to move you to a quarantine camp that will not exceed more than 21 days. And Strasburg immediately sees the writing on the wall and goes, nope, done this once before. And it's the great don't trust the government and what they're telling you moment. And everyone else is like, no, 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 they're just going to take us to a facility. And he's like, no, they're not. This ain't it. And then he somehow sees a map or something, right? Because he's the guy that tips him off. He's like, the Cassandra crossing, you can't pass that. Shouldn't even be there. It's not even, I doubt it's even there now. It's a death trap. They're trying to kill
Lionel
us.
says the last time I crossed it was in 1944.
Yeah. There you go.
Kind of like, okay, yeah, he's got wear. One thing he just triggered through, it's the same thing that happened in Towering Inferno. When Fred Astaire gets out of the cab, he walks like a dancer. And Burt Lancaster, when his character's walking down the hall at the very beginning, he doesn't walk like he's military. That guy's like a tap dancer. He's like light on his.
Yeah.
And
Plus his uniform's a little too pressed. But I love. So, what do you make of this ending? Though, first, let me give you a quick Burt Lancaster story that's fun. At Christmas, Richard Johnson, who starred in The Haunting, and he was up for Bond. He did a lot of these movies with Heston. He had a cocktail party, and Burt Lancaster's daughter was one of the guests. And we were talking about her brother Bill Lancaster, who wrote the screenplay for The Thing, and I said I loved his work on Bad News Bears too, because they shot that in my old neighborhood, and we were the Bad News Bears. That movie really hit home for a lot of us at that age in Little League at that time. And she stops and goes, that's based on my dad. Burt Lancaster was his Little League coach, and everything in that is based on Burt Lancaster coaching my brother. And now that I heard that, I realized, oh my God, Walter Matthau, I can totally see Burt Lancaster going, don't worry, forget about it, kids, throwing him beers.
Yeah.
And being what is it, Buttermaker? It's Buttermaker, right? Buttermaker. It's Butterworth is the syrup, right? Buttermaker. That's a great movie. Chico's Bail Bonds. Anyway, what do you make of the end of this movie where he walks off and the other guy, like you hear his voice? I think they ADR'd that. Do you think that was an afterthought?
I had to look him up because I think he's John Philip Law.
By the way, Colonel, how well do you know Geneva? There's a terrific little place around the corner. Quiet, private. How about I buy you a drink? Stack, sir. He just left. The woman, too. No, sir. They're both under surveillance.
Oh, is that who plays that part?
Yeah. And he's Barbarella fame. The Golden Voyage of Sinbad.
Yeah, he's stacked. But I didn't realize that was John Philip Law looking at him. He looks so young.
Well, and he was one of those maybe it's a little bit of brilliance. I don't know, because I don't trust him. And I had the same thing. I thought, is that your voice, or did they hire, were you a local? I didn't know any, so I had to look him up. I go, oh no, you're a legit actor. But I think the sound, that was the other thing. Was in all those Burt Lancaster scenes, the sound was horrible. And you're in a fixed location. You're not on the fucking train. You're in a fucking room, but the sound was ADR'd, some of it.
So what we're talking about is at the end of the movie, Lancaster does away with these guys, does his job as ordered, and walks away. And then there's like a phone call that's overheard by his aide. Yeah. He's like, yes, sir. They're both under surveillance. And I'm not sure what the purpose of that was, just other than maybe adding a level of intrigue or what it was supposed to imply, or if they even shot that originally and they went back and kind of probably saw him walking out and said, we need something here. And somebody probably came up with the idea, let's say he's under surveillance, like something cryptic, that, because that happens too at the, when you're working through a film.
They could have brought the Lancaster and the doctor. They could have taken that away like 80%. Because it was the same. I'm a doctor. I'm military. I'm at the risk, but I don't care. Like it was okay. And that's the other thing with Lancaster. Uh, 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 Again, I loved Local Hero. Um,
Oh, isn't that a great movie?
I don't know what his claim to fame is. Like what put was it P.T. Barnum or something like that? But he does the same thing, and he does the same cadence on everything.
I think he got the nomination, right, for being that tent roadside preacher.
Okay.
But that wasn't a film I loved, but I loved him in The Train. I loved him in some of his movies. I mean, he's great too in The Professionals, I think. You know, he did other things, The Crimson Pirate. There's other things out there. But he did kind of go into that sort of Lancaster mode on a lot of these films later in life where he came in and he was the general with sort of like a touch of possible evil. Or, and he's effective. I guess you need that. It's a weird set though. It's like a very I don't know how to even describe it. It's like made from components left over from 2001.
You know what got
it looks like.
There was one point there was a desk and it was the chairs. They had the round bottom and then spear going up and then the back. It was like IKEA. Like I remember those chairs back in the 70s. They were everywhere.
Yeah.
Really modern or whatever. Well, I will say in the opening, the scenes above the grate when they're bringing the guy in on the gurney, like they were shooting that fantastic. Like there was a lot of movement, a lot of going, and then when they get into these the doctor military scenes, it was so stagnant. Except for I love because of technology now, but it's the little click. I'm going to talk to you into this microphone.
Yeah. I mean, it's really one step shy of him having one of those genie garage doors openers in his hand, being like, "Click, hello, doctor." Click back, like just something like for scientific purposes for the audience at the time, not knowing how things would progress technically, but it works. I mean, I know what you're talking about because there's this great overhead shot where all the corridors are mapped out in colors in this hospital when the terrorists come in, and I'm looking at that going, oh man, they got that shot simply for the cosmetics of it. Not a bad choice. They could have they could have done this a dozen different ways. They could have probably done it in a quarter of the time, but they opted for the optics and they got it. And there's a couple of moments there. I mean, this was early in Quasimodo's career, and he showed some chops. Of course, we know what he did later in Tombstone, and as we talked about, you loved Cobra, and I loved Rambo: First Blood Part 2 when I was 9.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Look, there's nothing better than a guy winning a war you heard you lost your whole life.
Yeah.
And doing it to great music. And getting the dude out of a rock boulder punching prison to do it. That's called a movie, folks. That's how you settle the score on the screen. Those are great executives' minds at work. Like, what's the big thing that's got everyone down? And that was my approach, too, with Collateral Damage with Schwarzenegger at Warner Bros. What's got everyone down? 9/11. Well, what are we going to do about it? Well, we're not doing a sorry 9/11 piece, I can tell you that. Release Collateral Damage so the audience can see some payback, even if it's Schwarzenegger. And that's what they did with Rambo in Vietnam, basically. It's like, what's everyone down about? Vietnam. Well, let's get a guy out of prison and have him wreck those dudes. Let's relitigate the war,
Well, it's amazing, that franchise, because that first one, I maintain had Stallone died after First Blood, he would have gone down as one of the best actors of all time.
That is
gone on to do what he's done, and it's kind of like he's no parody.
Yeah, so what you saying makes sense. Had he not done Oscar or Stop or My Mom Will Shoot or Rhinestone, had we seen him in that emotional prime, you're probably right. He would have been hallmarked. Ted Kotcheff, our buddy, directed that, and he said the book that it's based on is a suicide mission, and that Rambo does die in the end too, to mirror what you're saying. But when they got to the end, they're like, no way.
Paradise Alley.
Yeah.
Paradise Alley. My Rev and I watched that during COVID, and he sings the fucking theme song.
Does he?
He sings the opening fucking song.
You sure it's not his bro Frank that does it?
It's him.
Okay.
And he's trying to do his best Bill Medley, and Bill Medley that was the underground. Bill Medley sang all the end credits of I don't know how many fucking movies.
Yeah, he was your go-to guy for that. I do love First Blood, though. There's a great emotional directional shift when he goes to the dude's house at the end of the credits and says, "I'm looking for so-and-so." and he's dead. Cancer took him from Agent Orange or something, and he's got like the picture out, and he's like, look, that's me, and that's Ramrod, and that's Gung Ho. You know, he's like naming the G.I. Joe characters in his platoon, basically, but he's like kind of excited to see his friend, and then he hears his friend's dead, and then his next confrontation is Brian Dennehy, who I have to give credit to, plays this part as an unrepentant racist, and that is the way to do it. Don't explain why you're this way, just be this guy. And that's really what makes the movie click, is you hate him fast. And he's smart enough as an actor to know he's in service to the story. And that, you know, Kirk Douglas was supposed to play Troutman in this, but Kirk Douglas kept asking for rewrites to make it about that character. So he got asked to walk the plank. Crenna stepped in. But, you know, the whole thing, the whole sheriff, the mentality of Dennehy of just like, I'm going to make everyone hate me. So they'll cheer when I'm dead and the audience will get worked up. That's actor psychology 101. That guy gets an A for playing the part like that. Honestly, incredible. And he's just so good at it. He's like, you know, why don't we get you out of town? You know, you just don't learn, do you? What are they like? You just don't learn, do you, City Boy, or something like that? All those guys. Chris Mulkey's one of those guys who I think is a friend. He's definitely a friend of mine. He's probably a friend of yours. Yeah, David Caruso. Yeah, so they all bully him, and then of course they get word because you have to telegraph word, right? Somehow word comes back. This dude is a former Green Beret, did like 9.5 tours in Nam and literally wrecked Hanoi.
Yeah.
And they're like, maybe we're going in the woods after the wrong guy. Yeah. You know, it's like maybe we don't chase this dude into the woods. I don't know, but that's a fun movie. Stallone's panned the initial cut of it, but I have a hard time seeing them. He said the movie was terrible until they started cutting it down. Maybe he's exaggerating that fact because that movie felt cut and dry.
It's one
honestly, and it's a Christmas movie too. Look closely at the police station.
Oh, I must point out, you realize when I said Bill Medley, I don't know if everyone knows who he is, but Bill Medley is the base of the Righteous Brothers.
Right.
So when you lost that love and feeling, that's Bill Medley, and he's made a career out of with that singing.
Yeah, that Dirty Dancing track that dominated the airwaves for that decade and beyond.
That's on Cobra, and you can't. It's like it's
so one of the best credit songs. We should just do a show on songs that accompany credits. Yeah. I felt was Uncommon Valor. I thought they did the best job bringing in someone for a song. But there's so many great ones, and that was kind of a staple of the 80s too. Everything ended with like a song.
Yeah.
You know, for soundtrack purposes probably, but getting back to, all right, so your overall rating on a Cassandra Crossing before we bounce to the next project.
We're talking about the model, and it's too bad because it's 1976, and who knows with the
no excuse.
You know, like it's tough because it's always because they do the same thing in Force 10 from
they do.
Oh, they got to have that dam, and it's the water's got to come down and splash, and this is not CGI. These are all model builders, and the time. Although I did see a segment online about how they built downtown Hollywood for 1941, and I love it. All the Belushi airplane going through. They built Hollywood, and it's as big as a human. Like the tallest building is 6 feet tall, but everything's to scale. I love that.
I love the model work in a lot of these films. I mean, the model work is effective, but when they blend the model work with action at the director's request, it doesn't always blend seamlessly, and that's our problem. 1941, though, is one of those. That's one of those movies I can't believe was a bigger hit because it is about the Battle of Los Angeles, which is this interesting glitch in our history. But the movie itself just kind of falls flat. But it's got everyone in Hollywood in it.
I love that movie. It's one of my favorites, and people don't like it, but I go again as an adult movie. You sit down, and there's multiple stories. There's angle comedy. There's Belushi was never better. Wild Bill Kelso. That when he spits, like it was funny as hell.
Unbelievable. And our buddy Perry Lang's in it too. He's got a part in it, and he instigates a fight. But also, it's Dan Aykroyd breaking down that the war's actually been going on 10 years longer than people realize because the Japs have been in Manchuria.
Sorry, but there was. Oh, so at the end of Cassandra Crossing,
Yeah.
you've got part of the train going off, and you see people getting steel pipes through them, murder, mayhem, explosions, and then the guy, our guy Lionel, he's cranking it to slow his portion of the train down. Hopefully, you don't know if it's going to happen, and then it finally stops. But you see it's kind of partially still on the track, and Harris like, come on, everybody, come on, and he's and then I was going to say Lauren Bacall. No, it's
Sophia Loren.
Sophia Loren, thank you. She stops on the stairs, and they have a moment as people are like,
with panicked people behind her. Yeah. She's like holding up the exit.
But then the people getting off the train are smiling like they just got, oh, it's my son. They're smiling like they just got home for Christmas. They're coming off that train after like experiencing terror. They're like, hey, it's so
here's how they would do that scene today. The train separates, they blow it apart, they blow it to separate it. They manage to rig a MacGyver type. They blow it, the concussion blast separates it, but they have to break their part of the train too because they're moving at high speed. There is this convenient crank that Lionel Standard starts working on to slow it down. But if they were doing that today, when the explosion happened, Richard Harris would fall forward to where the split in the train was as it went over the bridge, and would it stop and he would tumble out to hang on over the water as the bridge behind him collapsed. Can he get back on the train, or is he going down with the other section? And the answer is, folks, he lives, because we didn't often kill our heroes in action sequences like this. But that's how they would do it today.
I thought he should have died in this.
There was probably potential discussions about that at one point when they were developing it. Does he die? Does he live? I think, you're not bringing him back for Cassandra Crossing 2, or are you? Are you?
Oh, that was the other one that I when they're boarding up the train.
Incredible sequence. That's a very good sequence, I think.
Yeah. But they take lighters, cigarettes, and electronic devices from them.
Yeah.
And is that because I didn't realize that they were going to pump the train with oxygen, so you can't light?
Maybe.
So then,
you know what
how does Harris light the wick?
Well, he runs down to matches, right? And then O.J. Simpson does the death run to get him his lighter.
Yeah.
Right?
No, he saved the kid.
He saves the kid. Yeah, so he gets shot saving the kid.
Hey, Sweets. Oh, it's
yeah.
Baby Jesus, Sweets.
Yeah. Don't you say grace, Father? You said enough. You said enough for all of us, Sweets. So maybe there's a reason they do that, and there probably is, but I felt like they did that as a mechanism to kind of piss off the passengers, like, oh, it's already getting deep in here with these guys. They're coming in here taking our stuff. Like, I felt like they wrote in somehow these armed guards needed to violate the passengers to kind of maybe justify the trajectory the movie was on. Like, did they take it because it could ignite? And they do, you're right, pump oxygen in so you're probably correct on this, but I felt like they needed to go in because they're like, hey, man, what's going on in here? And they're like pushing them down, like, shut up. We're in charge now, But those guys get blasted. I mean, once they start taking this train, I can't believe they didn't get those German soldiers in on it. I mean, that was my immediate go-to. Like, get the dudes trained for this.
I just saw this in some of the notes I was taking, but at the end of the movie, when Burt Lancaster has the moment with the doctor, and it's this close.
Yeah, what was with that? Do you know what I think they did? I think they did that because they changed the dialogue there. Okay, so Jeremy's talking about a scene that's done eye to eye. It's very awkward in the cut.
Yeah.
And what I'm guessing is they changed the exchange, and they had to come in on him.
Yeah, it's the weakest.
I don't know. what it was.
And there's not a
like
shot.
in the edit. I'm thinking that they did that in the edit.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you make of that? That can't be that couldn't have been a stylistic choice because they never do it anywhere else in the film, and it's awful. It's really weird. And neither one of those characters, neither one of those actors, because the actress Lancaster's opposite was one of Ingmar Bergman's favorites. They're not known for their eyes. They're known for their ability to deliver, but not necessarily their eyes. Like I could see you doing that with Sophia Loren. You know, that's what she was sort of known for, right? But whatever. It is an awkward moment. So there you go. Cassandra Crossing in a nutshell. I give it a C+. Ratchford, what do you rate it?
Hold on, but it's just one little part too. Because you give me some. Knowing now that her husband was the producer and da 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 da.
Yeah.
I love because when they kiss, the two their lips are pierced. And there's no.
Yeah, passion. I know. I thought the same thing when I saw it. It's like that is a very unromantic.
There's one point where they're kissing for 10 seconds or whatever.
Yeah.
But then it's implied. I love. I think he's getting dressed, but she's lying in the bed and the blanket.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can see she's got beautiful shoulders, and it's like you know she's naked underneath, and that's all you get.
Yeah. That's all. Well, that's producer Carlo Ponti, Mr. Sophia Loren, saying, "We are only going to take this so far, my friends.
Yeah,
we're only going to push this so far." And it's yeah. All right. So overall, I give this movie C+. You know, depending on where you're at, it's not a Hallmark film, but it's fun for what it's worth. A one-time watch, probably. What do you think?
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it the first time through. Again, as I said, like an adult movie, mature, I guess, non-fantastical, but with. I think it's kind of funny because it's was it the IHO?
The
organization.
It's that's what it's supposed to represent. They've got some movie acronym for it, but yeah.
Here we are 50 years later. We just pulled out of that.
Which we should not be doing. Come on, let's let science do its the scientific thing.
We pulled out of that 3 years after the worst pandemic of the century. Like it's just like so. I always look sometimes at these kind of going, "Wow, that was 76."
Yeah,
it changed. That could happen.
Yeah. It could. I thought that too. It has a lot of like frightening parallels in a sense, and I'm actually surprised this hasn't been rebooted.
Yeah,
you know that somebody hasn't.
The phenomena that is the train, because you are on that train. Like there's no, as it's moving, you can try and jump off, but everybody that's, it's such a wonderful setting for a movie, and it's so romantic regardless.
Yeah, it's great for terrorist films like this, and it's great for murders like Perot. It's great for all of that. The train gives you every possibility, and it's sad that we don't see more of it. It's kind of getting pushed aside. But hey, you know, it's never too late to do a Cassandra Crossing 2, back to Cassandra Crossing. I would love just to see one of those prop caskets that they bolted bodies into, because I was like, that was a very ominous thing when I was a kid to see that at like 5-6 year old, seeing a body get bolted into a. That was also what it was with the Man in the Iron Mask with Richard Chamberlain, when they bolted him into that mask, and I was like, oh my God, they're sealing him in that. You know, again, another movie that doesn't quite hold up, but has its moments. You know, I don't know if you know the film I'm talking. They've remade that since, though, but not as effectively. What's that?
DiCaprio do it?
Yeah, DiCaprio did it. And what's his name? Wallace, I think, directed it. Screenwriter for Braveheart, if I remember right. All right, so there you go. Cassandra Crossing in a nutshell.
Hi there, everybody. Voice actor Roger Craig Smith here to talk to you about NMOSD. It can paralyze you, it can blind you, it can even kill you in a matter of minutes, but we are very close to a cure, and with that cure could come a cure for cancer. So please go to the Guthrie Jackson Foundation and donate today. Appreciate it.